Dr. Gerald Schroeder. He has lived in Israel since 1971, immigrated, made Aliyah from the United States. He has a PhD, a doctorate, that he got in 1965, a dual topic of nuclear physics and earth and planetary science. He is a prominent author and teacher today on the topic of God and science. And in fact, one of his books here that I'm looking at right now, it's called The Science of God. He has another one called The Hidden Face of God. And this is the one I hope we can spend the most time about. It's called God According to God. That's really exciting. His first book, though, was called Genesis and the Big Bang, and it was really revolutionary at the time. It was the first book on science in the Bible ever published by a major, really secular publishing house back in what was it, 1990 or something like that?
Yeah, along that time, yeah.
Wow. So that's actually really significant, because there were books like that, but they were always published by religious publishing houses. And this was published by a secular publishing house, this regular publishing house, and it's still in print today, you told me.
Yeah.
Which is unbelievable. You know, I'm an author as well, and I know that for most publishing setups, you know, the book is sold for 18 months, and then it becomes what they call a backlister, and it's, you know, in the discount pile. And then not even, your book is still being sold and still being read by people, more importantly, after, oh, wow, that's a long time.
25, yeah, it's
25
amazing.
years.
Yeah, it's
wow.
amazing.
That's amazing. So let's start talking. Yeah.
When I brought it to the publisher, they said the reason they're buying it, because it's a big deal at that time, it was a gamble.
Yeah.
He said, if you come to me as Rabbi Schroeder, we wouldn't have looked at the book.
Okay. So why did
you
you do it?
come to me as Professor Dr. Gerald Schroeder from MIT, we're going to look at the book.
So you've got a PhD. You got your PhD from MIT?
Bachelor's, master's, and PhD.
Wow. Today we're going to really try to focus as much as possible on this topic of God and God and the Big Bang, or Genesis and the Big Bang. And you were telling me just before we started that about a conflict that people have when it comes to faith and science. So tell me about that.
Look, not everyone is, they say different strokes for different folks, but
okay.
I've met so many people, literally thousands, not ones or tens, maybe more than 1,000, that say they'd like to believe that the Bible has some aspect of real divinity to it, as it being just a wonderful story, that there's a God. But what about the Bible? Is the Bible from God? And how can it be that Genesis chapter 1 tells us in 6 days, God creates the universe? That's the first sentence. And by the time you get to verse 27, which is only 5.5 or 6 days later, you got humans, Adam. And by verse 31, the chapter's finished. From the creation of the universe up to humanity, you got like 30 sentences and 6 days, because it's broken up into 6-day units. And how can it be 6 days when science says, quite clear, the data gets stronger and stronger, approximately 14 billion years old? How can it be 14 billion years and the Bible says 6 days? So
for many people, that's an obstacle to their faith in the Torah, in the Bible.
It's more it's a firewall.
Okay.
And
you know, a lot of the people listening to this program, you know, certainly my tendency is to be a literal 6-day believer in creation. A lot of the people listening are young earth creationists. But you propose a different. You're not a young earth creationist. Let's put that out there.
Right.
Am I right? Was it 6 24-hour days?
You see, Nehemiah, you got a problem here, and the problem is that
he's a physicist, so the answer is both.
The answer, yes, the answer is both. Literally,
is it 6 24-hour days or billions of years? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell us how that can be.
Okay. Much of this, I put the numbers in. I was the lucky guy that put the numbers in.
Yeah.
But I want to make it clear.
And you're saying before you, people hadn't done this? People hadn't figured
this is new. This is
your discovery.
I'm the first one to put these numbers to it. But I was led to it by a commentator in about the year 1200 called Nachmanides with an N. Nachmanides. And then the earlier statements, there were earlier ones by Rav Tanchuma 1,800 years ago. I mean, I only use ancient biblical commentary when it comes to the science, modern science. But as far as understanding the Bible, no modern biblical commentary, because all modern commentators are always bending the Bible to match the science.
So you're saying these traditional Jewish commentaries, they led you to this idea that the world is both billions of years old and 6 days old, or around 6,000 years old at the same time?
They made it.
Or the creation was 6 days.
Okay, let's look. It'd be useful if the person's listening can quickly pull out a copy of Genesis chapter 1 if you don't have a Bible.
You must do that. That's stop what you're doing on the treadmill, stop what you're doing on your bicycle, and go pull out Genesis chapter 1 and read it. That's your homework.
Yeah, okay.
Go on.
Okay, yeah. And you can get it on your iPhone or however you want to do it. So first of all, we see Genesis chapter 1. is broken into 6 days. God creates the first sentence. God creates the heavens and the earth. Watch out for English translations. We'll do that maybe at another time. I don't want to get off the track.
So you're saying there's stuff in the Hebrew that's lost in the English.
It doesn't even match the English at all.
Okay.
But
so that's the first problem.
I look back in time and I see, from my perspective here on Earth, 14 billion years worth of history. And those years went by. But how would they be perceived? And here is the key operational word.
Everybody listen, here's the key.
How would they be perceived?
Yeah.
From the Bible's perspective of the beginning looking forward. I have to run all that information, and it's totally a thought experiment, back in time to the beginning of the biblical clock, which we know is on day number 1, because that's why it says day 1. Remember, that was the whole point of day 1 versus the first day. When I run anything back in time, as we saw from the galaxy experiment, time is compressed to a different perspective. And that's why the change in the calendar starts with Adam forward. Once you get a year's talking again, in chapter 5 is the first time the time is mentioned after the 6 days and then the Sabbath. Adam and Eve live 130 years, have a kid named Seth. Seth lives 105 years, a kid named Enosh. It's chapter 5. Where'd they live? In outer space? They lived on Earth. From Adam forward, it's Earth time. But what about the 6 days?
This is the key. You're saying those first 6 days aren't Earth time?
From the Bible's perspective, it's the Bible time. The mistake I make in Genesis, the Big Bang, and in Science of God, I said, from God's perspective, we don't know God's perspective. We know the Bible's perspective. God gives us information in the Bible. I've got a good feeling that God's knowledge exceeds the Bible. But that's what we get.
But from the Bible's perspective, it was 6 days. But if you were out in space...
24-hour days.
But if you were out in space, it was 14 billion years or something like that.
But in reality, as we see it, it's billions of years, and the dinosaurs appear about 210 or 20 billion, a million years ago, and they disappeared 65 million years ago from a force from outer space. Adam, caveman, etc. Now, just because I'm a person, all of this is on my website, by the way. It's in the Science of God.
And your book, The Science of God, Genesis and the Big Bang, will be on the website, nehemiaswall.com. Okay. What's your website? You said it's on your website.
GeraldSchroeder.com.
GeraldSchroeder.com. We'll have that link on nehemiaswall.com.
And you go, there's one essay called The Age of the Universe in 5 pages, about 20 minutes of reading. It gets right. You hear me blabbing away here now, blah, blah, blah. Here. So now we have a view of time looking for the beginning, looking forward. But we don't know exactly what moment or what the universe is like at its creation. And so brilliantly, it just boggles the imagination. We are told by the commentators that are telling us that it's that view of time, that when matter forms, M-A-T-T-E-R, when matter forms, time grabs a hold. And that's very interesting. The first creation wasn't...
And you're saying that somebody wrote this 800 years ago or 1,000 years ago or something?
Yeah, Nachmanides,
Isn't that related somehow to
energy?
The theory of relativity?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying...
So that's something Einstein discovered, but it was known, you're saying, or believed 800 years ago.
I'm just saying, we now know that radiant energy, like light beams or heat coming off the wall or anything, or the beams that carry your telephone, they're outside of time. And they pass by definition at the speed of light, they travel. At the speed of light, time doesn't exist. So it's only when stable matter forms. I'm not reading this in. Mishia yesh yitfos man. When you have yesh, stable matter, time grabs a hold. And that turns out to be, I could pull the text right off the shelf, like for the first 3 minutes, whatever, however you want. That turns out to be the first stable matter that makes the elements of the universe are protons. Hydrogen is 1 proton. Helium is 2 protons.
So from the time there was protons, there was time, is what you're saying.
So I look up...
According to Jewish scholars 1,000 years ago?
Time is going by, but nothing's recording the time because time can go by, but nothing's recording it because there's no stable matter. Only matter gets older. Light waves don't get older. Look, you can't get everything in one sentence, in 15 minutes. So what do I have here? I see the energy level or temperature is exactly the same, two different words for the same thing, that is required for the protons to form. I know that. No, I don't know. Well, I'm a nuclear physicist. I would know that, but I use my numbers. I guess it takes from what's called the threshold energy of protons. And that's a certain energy level. The easiest way of talking about is temperature, It's a certain temperature. Temperature is energy. And I know the temperature of space today, not the temperature of the sun. The universe is very cold. It's 3 degrees above absolute zero. In centigrade, it's minus 270. In Fahrenheit, it's minus 450. That's the
universe deep in space.
That's the black of space.
Oh, okay.
The black of space outside of sun, not the red sunlight.
That's really cool. All right.
If I take the ratio of the temperature of space today, this minus 450, it's called the famous 3 degrees of absolute zero, or the minus 450. People are thinking Fahrenheit primarily, centigrade. What are people?
At these temperatures, nobody has any idea what you're talking about.
No. If I take that ratio of how cold it is today, versus the temperature at which protons and neutrons form, I have a ratio of how much space is stretched.
Okay.
That ratio, Nehemiah, is 900 billion. That is to say, the universe is now 900 billion times larger, stretched out, than when the.
And why is that significant for this discussion?
Well, because
what does that lead us to?
That means when I look back and see 14 billion years, if I want to go back to the Bible's perspective, I have to go back to the time when the universe is 900 billion times smaller. And time and the perception of time was compressed by 900 billion.
So you're saying, the 14 billion years of the universe would have been perceived as 6 days. Is that
no,
624 hours?
14 billion years of the universe would have been perceived by 14 billion years divided by 900 billion.
Which is 6 days?
5.5 days.
Okay.
No, okay. It's pretty,
tell me
bloody phenomenal.
It is, but I'm not sure I understand it. So tell me in plain English one more time. You've got, because the universe is 900 billion times bigger than it was to begin with, therefore,
and the from the beginning of the clock, and the biblical perception or perspective of time for those first 6 days is from the beginning looking forward. I can't use my perception of time. My perspective.
Oh, okay. So our perception of time today is that it was 14 billion years, but from the moment the universe was created, it would have been looked at forward as 5.5 or 6 days. 24-hour days.
Yeah, the irony is,
and you're saying it's not based on some doctrine or belief, but based on math, right?
Totally.
Okay, which you're not going to explain now because it's way too complicated, I'm sure.
No, it's 5 simple pages. JoeSchroeder.com, The Age of the Universe. It's an essay there, The Age of the Universe.
And there you have the mathematics for those who know math that they can confirm this.
It's a division. 14 billion years divided by 900 billion. The zeros all drop out, and you got 14 years divided by 900.
Okay. Comes out to about 5.5 or 6 days.
No, you want to be. Well, the irony is, the embarrassment is, comes to be 5.5 days, because when does the biblical clock begin? When Adam is created.
Oh, which is in the middle of the 6th day.
Yeah, which comes out to 5.5 days.
Wow. Okay. So basically,
I want to make it clear.
Yeah.
They put this book on Amazon's bestseller list.
The Science of God.
It was on the bestseller list for the entire year.
Okay.
In the field of science, I'm not bragging now. I want to make it very clear, but I want to make it clear that this is not just some honky-tonk science Bible thumping thing. This is reality.
Okay.
In the field of science, it was the largest selling book worldwide for an entire year.
Wow. So basically what you've described here...
Which means Brian Greene, Stephen Hawking, Richard Dawkins, all the famous names, you know, and the little Schroeder with the Science of God.
Okay.
The largest selling science.
And we'll have a link to that on the website, nehemiaswall.com.
I'm not selling books, but I want to make it clear.
I want people to go read your book, because what we're offering them here is the tip of the iceberg, and really to get, and I always tell people, when I try to convince them to buy my book, it's not because I want to sell the book, it's because I want them to get more information. And if I'm going to do a teaching, I sometimes have been known to speak for like 10 hours, but still that's nothing compared to what's in the book. And certainly, this is for your 4 books there, we could sit here for 3 weeks and not get to everything, and we're not going to do that. But I do appreciate you explaining this. This was some really complicated stuff. People, take a deep breath, stop on the treadmill, and go to his website, GeraldSchroeder.com, and read these books and get some more information. There's some videos there as well where,
the video, I've never
50 videos.
I've never put any videos up.
But people video you, and
But I want to make it clear, these books are published this is by Free Press of Simon & Schuster.
Okay.
It's not a science publishing company. It's a popular, it's reader friendly.
Okay. Excellent. Now, this idea of the perception of time, I'm just going to ask this because, look, I grew up watching Carl Sagan and Cosmos, where he talked about billions.
Which is why I wrote my first book.
Okay. Oh, really?
That's exactly why I wrote my first book.
And it's really interesting. I remember, my father was an Orthodox rabbi, and he never watched television except for football games. But we sat around the entire family watching Cosmos together back in the 70s. And so it really left an impression on me. And
if you'd only known, if Carl Sagan, my first rabbi, all I know is my first rabbi told me, Herman Pollack of blessed memory, married. I remember, some going back many decades, he married Carl Sagan, his first wife.
Really?
In Margolis.
Was Carl Sagan Jewish?
Of course.
I had no idea.
Are you serious?
No, I didn't know that.
But he didn't know anything.
Wait.
But my Rabbi Pollack said all he knew was that he was Jewish. He didn't know any of tradition, but he still wanted a rabbi to do the whole...
Oh, okay. But he didn't know anything about Judaism is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Except that he was Jewish.
Except for everything that was mystical and wonderful. He said the Buddhists said that and the Tibetans said that, and he didn't realize it was right.
And what I want to get to is the twins. You know, there's that scene in Cosmos where the one twin is waiting and the other goes at the speed of light and comes back, and the first twin is old. Is that have something to do with what you're describing, or is that completely not related?
It's not related, but I talk about not Carl Sagan, but in Genesis and the Big Bang. That's one of the... Because it actually was done. There was an experiment done with clocks, not with people. It happens with people also.
And it wasn't that the twin was an old man. It was a clock and it was milliseconds or something, right?
Yeah, but if you could measure that in human time, it's also the same.
Oh, okay.
The twin comes back a different age.
Right.
But
isn't that the whole thing with the GPS system, and they have to constantly tweak it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, when I took a mind, we always, going back during the Cold War era, we always had the strategic air command in the air. Mm-hmm. Those clocks had to be, and then they were replaced with another. The planes would stay for 2 weeks at a time, being refueled.
Really?
Or a week at a time. Then they would come down. A new plane would go up. Those clocks had to be reset all the time.
Wow. And so basically, what that shows is that there's different perceptions of time within the physical universe. Is that? I mean, that's
absolutely
that's an issue of physics, not theology or doctrine or religion. It's a reality of physics. Yeah.
And every astronomer knows it. They would just say, "What else is new?" We've been saying that for over 200 years, 150 years.
Right. Okay. And all right. Well, I appreciate you talking about this.